Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about What Abigail Did That Summer by Ben Aaronovitch. I know some people got arcs of this or got it early, but it's release day today, got this in the post, smashed through this afternoon. This is the 11th book in the Rivers of London series. I've not reviewed the others up to now on my channel because I actually read them all before I started booktube. I don't really do retrospective reviews, but if that's something anyone would like to see, let me know in the comments. I'll give a rundown of vaguely what the series is about. The Rivers of London series follows Peter Grant, who is a policeman recruited by the Magic Investigation Branch, Falcon, of the London Metropolitan Police. He's tutored by Thomas Nightingale, the UK's only surviving licensed and registered wizard, or as they call themselves, practitioners. They investigate, as their higher-ups would say in the police force, weird bollocks. All the magic, all the Fae-related crimes that impact the human world. Networking and forming relationships with spirits, small gods, monsters that permeate and fill a city as rich and steeped in history as London is. Abigail's a young girl, the young cousin of Peter. She knows through him the existence of the demimonde, the magic world underlying everyday normal society, and through him starts to experience it on her own, her main gateway into it being through London's talking fox population, which she regularly aids. Feeling out the edges of the world, she pushes the boundaries in preparation for Peter and Nightingale, taking her on as an apprentice after she finishes secondary school and passes her Latin exams. Now to this book. Something weird is going on up on Hampstead Heath, near Camden in the north of London. Children are disappearing. Something is luring them away from their families for days at a time and returning them with no memory of where they've been. When a kid Abigail hasn't seen in years tries to recruit her to a happening up on the heath, Abigail decides to investigate, alongside her new friend Simon and the local fox contingent. This is the 11th book in the series, third in a series of novellas within the series, but chronologically this happens at the same time as book 5, so this is kind of 5.5, I guess. I feel like I'm back on board with this series now. Book 10, False Values, was a little bit disappointing for me, and I don't know if it's where on the timeline this is, but this feels more like old school, the first few Rivers of London books. There is some really cool secondary world building in this book, where we get a look at fox society a little more, sort of the fairy tales and myths that the foxes tell each other. I thought with that, some passages had a really similar feel to Richard Adams' Watership Down, and the rabbit stories about El-Ra, the rabbit god. In a lot of ways in the main story, Peter and Nightingale have become very knowledgeable about their system of magic, but only really learning about things that affect the human world as and when they do. Abigail, however, is totally different. The demimonde is opened up to her and she goes into it with this insatiable, burning curiosity, at a point where the reader has had the basic world build given to them and is hungry for the details, which we really start to get now through characters that aren't part of the main story. I love Abigail as a character. I think she's a fantastic example of how kids' intelligence is often underestimated by adults. The way her internal monologue is in this book feels very genuinely like a smart, emotionally mature kid. Sometimes you get when an adult writes a child character, you can sort of tell that it was written by an adult because the adult pokes through. But Abigail is written, honestly, really well. You see through a kid's eyes the actions that adults do that they don't think of as patronising but actually really are, and the way kids can view some things as unfair which in reality are quite reasonable. You see through a kid's eyes what deems an adult worthy of their respect. Peter is completely off the scene for this one, being preoccupied with his own missing kid storyline up in Herefordshire in Foxglove Summer. And I thought this would make the story feel quite insular in the same way that Octoberman is quite insular, but there were so many familiar elements in here that it totally didn't. Abigail is really getting drawn deeper into Peter's world, but really fresh, different aspects of it. One thing I loved with this book revolving around not Peter, not Nightingale, is that Abigail really wants to do the same thing as them. She wants to help people, to do the whole detective investigation thing. But because she's a kid doing stuff off her own back and not with the police, she gets to do the whole lot without the paperwork. So this feels even more classic detective-y than the others feel police procedural. One thing I love about this whole series is that Ben Aaronovitch really does manage to capture what London is really like. He writes a London that I know and recognise. More than any other I've come across who want to show you the fancy, shiny English bits of London. Aaronovitch writes a London that people live in. This series feels so close to home for me. It's such a comfort read the whole way through. There's a lot that Aaronovitch throws in as well. You can tell these books are so well researched about local history and folklore, which I didn't know. So I'm constantly learning things as I'm reading these. There is a lot of slang in these books. Some is explained as it's laid out in the format of Abigail's journal, being sort of lightly annotated by Post Martin, the Follies archivist. But if you're not from the UK, or even not from London, there might be some stuff you have to Google if you can't work it out from context. But it's not cringy slang, it's stuff that people actually say. Okay, minor spoiler bit at the end of this review. I love how this delves deeper into Abigail, and I'm unsure, as I was with Octoberman, whether this is going to be tied closer into the main story going forward, or it's sort of the genesis of an independent Abigail story which we'll be dipping in and out of, happening alongside the main story. I hope the latter. I love spin-offs. I'm not sure how I would feel about the inclusion of a spy storyline with Simon's mum it mentions at the end. I hope it's demimonde. I hope it's not mundane, because that would feel out of place for me. But I hope Simon's mum is a recurring character that we get more of going forward. So this is getting 5 stars from me. Absolutely loved it. Feel like we're back on track. I highly recommend this series to anybody that hasn't read it. It's perfect for fans of Dresden Files. It has a very similar vibe, but I feel doesn't take itself as seriously. This is much more written for nerds than Dresden Files is. So just a short review for a short book, a little novella. Let me know if you want me to do a review of any of the others in the series. I could start again. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, which is down below, Goodreads down below. Like and subscribe for more reviews coming thick and quick. I read pretty fast. Don't forget to join our Interstellar Book Club, sci-fi stuff, if that's your jam. And I'll see you soon for the next one. Bye.